Yo, I just watched Jon Snow get murdered by the Night King right in front of me, and I couldn't do anything about it. Wait, scratch that. Jon Snow didn't die. My uncle did. And guess who was standing there, frozen like an idiot? Me. Yeah, this Game of Thrones game just made me feel more useless than Theon at a family reunion. But here's the wild part. This might actually be the best Game of Thrones game we've ever gotten. Let's find out. So I've spent the last week deep in Westeros playing Game of Thrones Kingsroad, and honestly, I'm impressed. Today, I'm breaking down everything. Meeting Jon Snow and Daenerys face to face, the combat system that actually makes you think, the multiplayer dungeons, and all the gameplay systems you need to know about. Let's get into it. First thing I noticed when I booted up Kingsroad, this game looks like Game of Thrones. I'm talking Castle Black with snow crunching under my boots, King's Landing with the Red Keep looming in the distance, and Winterfell that actually gave me chills. The level of detail is insane. I walked through the streets of King's Landing and saw NPCs going about their business, market stalls, guards patrolling. It felt alive. The atmosphere nails that dark, gritty Game of Thrones vibe perfectly. Now here's where it gets personal. You play as a bastard child from House Tyre, a lesser northern house. Your dad, Marok, sends you on 2 missions: rally support for the Night's Watch and deliver a letter to King's Landing proving you're an heir. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. I'm out there searching for missing rangers with my Uncle Kennett near Castle Black, and suddenly, boom, White Walkers everywhere. I fought them off initially, hacking and slashing, feeling like a total badass. Then I realized something terrifying. These things don't die from regular steel. We tried to escape, and that's when the Night King himself showed up. I watched, literally watched, as the Night King killed my uncle right in front of me. Jon Snow rescued me, but I was too late to save family. That hit different, man. The game is set during Season 4 of the show, so all the major events are happening around you. And here's the coolest part. You actually meet Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Tyrion Lannister, and other iconic characters. These aren't just cameos either. You have actual conversations with them, make dialogue choices that matter, and your decisions impact the story and rewards you get later. I stood in front of Jon Snow at Castle Black, and he acknowledged what happened to my uncle. That moment felt real. Alright, let's talk combat, because this is where Kingsroad really shines. The game has fully manual controls: dodge, parry, light attacks, heavy attacks, the whole package. But the game changer? You can switch between 2 weapons in real time during combat, and each weapon completely changes your playstyle. I played as a Sellsword, and I started fights with a longsword. Heavy, brutal, great for crowd control. But when a boss started charging me, I hit tab and switched to my chain and buckler mid-combo, which gave me faster attacks and better defensive options. Each weapon has its own skill tree and abilities. This dual weapon system makes you think strategically. Are you fighting a swarm of weak enemies? Use your main weapon for wide swings. Fighting a fast, aggressive boss? Switch to your secondary for quicker dodges and counters. You can pick from 3 classes: Sellsword, balanced DPS, Knight, tanky defender, or Assassin, high burst damage. Each class gets different weapon options. Assassins get rapiers, Knights get dual swords, Sellswords get chain and buckler. I tested all 3, and honestly, they all feel distinct. The Sellsword felt like a classic action RPG hero. The Knight was a wall that enemies just bounced off, and the Assassin was all about sneaking around and deleting health bars. Here's something unique. Instead of mana or stamina, you build rage during combat. Just spam abilities from the start. You have to land hits, deal damage, and fill that rage meter before unleashing your special attacks. This means combat has rhythm. I couldn't just button mash my way through. I had to actually engage with the system, dodge incoming attacks, parry when possible, and build up to those big moments. When it works, it feels awesome. I parried a White Walker strike, countered with a heavy attack, switched weapons mid-combo, and finished with a devastating skill that obliterated 3 enemies at once. That felt weighty and satisfying. Now, fair warning, the combat system has a learning curve. The hitboxes can feel inconsistent at first, so you'll need to spend time learning enemy attack patterns and timing your dodges precisely. Once you get the rhythm down though, it becomes way more rewarding. The ranged weapons, bows and crossbows, work best at the start of fights for pulling enemies. Once combat gets close quarters, switching back to your melee weapons is usually the better move. The boss fights in this game? Intense. I fought a massive giant near the wall, and this thing had attack patterns I had to memorize. Ground slams that created shockwaves in 3 directions. If I didn't dodge perfectly, half my health bar gone. But when I finally beat it after learning its moves, switching weapons at the right times, and timing my parries perfectly, that victory felt earned. The game rewards skill, not just grinding levels. The White Walker encounters are even more tense because they can one-shot you if you're not careful. Every fight feels like it matters. One of the key features Netmarble built is the multiplayer co-op content. The setup is interesting, solo exploration in the open world, but co-op dungeons and boss fights once you reach Winterfell in the story. These are called Weirwood Challenges, and they're basically dungeon runs that end with big boss battles. You relive past events and mythical battles from Westeros history, which is actually pretty cool lore-wise. The co-op works like Monster Hunter. There's a hub area where players gather, you form a party, and then you dive into the instance together. Here's where the class system shines. In multiplayer, roles become critical. Knights tank and hold aggro with taunts and stuns. Assassins wait for the knight's stun, then unleash massive burst damage. Sellswords do consistent DPS and can flex between offense and defense. I ran a dungeon with a knight and an assassin, and when we coordinated our skills, we melted bosses. The knight stunned the boss, I switched to my heavy weapon and unloaded, and the assassin finished with a critical strike combo. It felt good. The dungeons are definitely designed with team play in mind, so grabbing some friends makes the experience way more fun. This is one of Kingsroad's biggest selling points, and it absolutely delivers. I met Jon Snow at Castle Black after the White Walker attack, and he wasn't just a background NPC. He had voice acting, meaningful dialogue, and acknowledged my role in the battle. He became the acting commander of the Night's Watch in the game, just like in the show. Later, I encountered Daenerys Targaryen and Tyrion Lannister during story missions. The game recreates their personalities accurately. Dany is intense and focused on power, Tyrion is witty and strategic. You don't just observe these characters, you interact with them, answer questions, and make choices that reflect your opinions. These choices affect future story beats and rewards. The game takes place during Season 4, so you're experiencing events parallel to the show's timeline. It feels like you're in the Game of Thrones universe, not just playing a spin-off. The character models and locations are detailed and accurate to the original series. When I walked into Castle Black, it looked exactly like the show. Same with King's Landing, Winterfell, and the coastal areas of Highgarden. The open world is gorgeous and expansive. You ride horses across the 7 kingdoms, discover hidden enemies, find secret doorways and chests with loot, and complete quests. The structure has some similarities to Assassin's Creed, which works well for this type of game. The quests themselves are solid. They all have story context and purpose, no generic filler missions. The world gives you plenty of reasons to explore different regions as you progress through the story. Kingsroad has several progression systems working together. There are multiple in-game currencies that unlock different aspects of the game: cosmetics, equipment upgrades, skill unlocks, and activities. The game uses a recharge points system that acts as activity energy, limiting how much loot you can claim from bosses and missions. When you run out of RP, you can wait for it to recharge naturally, or focus on exploration and side content that doesn't consume RP. This creates a natural rhythm to gameplay sessions. There are also battle passes available if you want to accelerate your progression and unlock exclusive cosmetics. Netmarble has been actively adjusting the progression systems based on player feedback since the early access launch in March 2025. Here's my honest take after spending a week in Westeros. What makes it special? Visually stunning and faithful to the show. Meeting Jon Snow and Daenerys feels genuinely special. Combat with dual weapon switching adds real strategic depth. Story-driven quests with meaningful choices, and multiplayer co-op dungeons are fantastic with a coordinated team. What to know going in? Combat has a learning curve. The progression systems use multiple currencies and energy mechanics. Co-op is instance-based rather than open world. Each class plays very differently, so choose carefully, and horse riding takes some getting used to. If you're a Game of Thrones fan who's always wanted to walk through Westeros and interact with the characters you love, this game was made for you. If you enjoy action RPGs with strategic combat and team-based multiplayer, Kingsroad has a lot to offer. The developers at Netmarble are actively updating and improving the game based on community feedback, which is always a good sign. I want to know, if you could meet any Game of Thrones character in this game, who would it be and what would you ask them? And if you've played Kingsroad, tell me, which class did you choose and why?